Welcome. I have been delaying doing this partly because I've been busy and partly because I don't like being on camera. But I masked all of my gear and set up a mock pit area so that I can demonstrate what all you should have and how you use this massive gear list that I've compiled. I'm going to grab the camera and I'm going to show you around in my tent, and then we'll go through different gear changes and talk about that. So first of all, I have an 8x10 tarp underneath my tent over here to simulate having a 10x10 foot pit area. I have a 2-man 4-season tent set up. In the past years, I've shared this tent and then also a 4-man tent with a good friend of mine. This year we're changing it up so that if my wife wants to go in the tent and sleep, she can, and if his wife wants to go in their tent and sleep, she can too, without disrupting the other person. So this is a little bit more accurate as to how you would use one space for one person. I have a lot of gear spread out, and that's in part just because I'm going to go through the gear, show you what it is, and how I put it on. If we look in the tent though, you'll be able to see that I have, first of all, in the bottom of the tent, I have one of my heavy space blankets. This is non-hooded. This is made by Grabber. It's very thick, and if you listen to any of the wilderness survival people, the best way to stay warm in the cold is to put a blanket underneath you. One blanket underneath is worth 2 blankets on top. So first, line your tent with a heavy space blanket, and then if you need to pit for an extended period of time, you'll be able to stay a lot warmer than if you didn't have the blanket. Then you can see that I have an air mattress. It's a little dark in here. Let me see if I can lighten it up. So I have a cold weather air mattress. It's narrow, but it does the job. And then I also have a sleeping bag that's rated for below freezing. And then just because I'm nice, I have a little backpacking pillow for my wife. And then if you look over to the other side of the interior of the tent, you'll see most of my nutrition. You'll see in the back I've got my Gatorades, I've got this cooler up front. Now, I will likely store my stuff in my tent overnight from Friday to Saturday. Anything that I'm not worried about being perishable. And then day of race, I'm going to pull that whole case of Gatorade and the cooler out of the tent. That'll create a lot more space in order to be able to manipulate through changes of gear. Because otherwise you have gear stacked on top of gear on top of gear, and you can't get to anything that you need. So that's the basic tent. I'd have over on this other side, I'd have stacks of gear in bundles. You can put them in either paper bags, you can just go to the grocery store. I actually bought wetsuit bags because my first world's toughest mudder was in New Jersey, and I was worried about freezing, and I wanted to be able to put the suits in the wetsuit bags and kind of use body heat to keep them from freezing if I was going to need to pit for an extended period of time and then go back out. So I use the wetsuit bags that are folded up over there in order to bundle up my gear. And now we're going to go through race day and what I wear and the order I put it on. Alright, so the first item I start with is gurney goo. You can buy this on Amazon. I bought this back when it wasn't available on Amazon from New Zealand and had it shipped. I've got the 300-gram jar, and I've used it for 2 World's Toughest Mudders and shared it with a friend, and I still have enough for 1 more. So there's enough in this for 3 World's Toughest Mudders. I'm not going to start from base 0 and lube up my body for you, but I smear this on everything, and I mean everything, especially those friction areas. I really get it on my feet, get it on my crotch, get it on the inside of your thighs. You're going to be peeing on yourself all day and night long, and you want it to not burn. And then I also put it a lot in my armpits, my lats. I rub my tries on my lats, elbows, knees, anywhere you're going to rub. And I use a lot of this. You can also use Body Glide. This is going to dissipate. It's petroleum-based. Gurney Goo is silicone-based, and it doesn't wash away as much. So that's why I use the Gurney Goo. I'm going to now put on my first base layer that I would wear for the very first lap, which is the sprint or non-obstacle lap. All right, so for the sprint lap, I'm going to start with my base compression Under Armour shorts. These are going to stay on the entire race. I'm not going to take these off even when I change into thermal compression or put on my wetsuit. So I wear these, and I'm going to start with my normal Batman compression top. And I'm debating on which socks I'm going to wear. I would like to be able to get socks on and not change them for the entire race. Some people go through lots of pairs of socks. It takes a lot of time to change socks, especially when you're wearing the Injinji toe socks. I think they're worth it. They keep me from chafing and getting blister spots on my toes. And then I wear a set of compression knee-length socks on top. I'm debating whether or not I wear just my regular synthetic and blend, or if I start with my wool compression and Injinji. I'm going to act like I'm wearing the wool ones, so I'll put those on now. Alright, so I put on the socks, and then I put on my regular compression pants. I run in these Pearl Izumi 3/4 length knicker, like for most of my Tough Mudders, unless the temps are up into the 80s. It's what I'm comfortable in, so it's what I'll start the race in. I'm also going to have a little race belt so that I can put nutrition in that. We'll be in a start chute. I'll probably have a goo or a Snickers bar or something over there, and then we'll head out. I also have shoes. Doesn't matter what shoes I have on. You wear the shoes that are comfortable for you. On top of the shoes, though, I recommend these Pearl Izumi gaiters. They keep all the big debris out. You're still going to get a lot of desert sand inside your shoes, but the gaiters help to keep most of the debris out. And this is what I'll start out in. But in actuality, there are two more important things you must have on you before you go to that start line. You have to have your bib on, and you also need your timing chip. I put my timing chip around my ankle. It's under my gaiter. Unless I'm changing socks, there's no risk of me losing it, but make sure you start with your timing chip. Depending on how fast you are, that will determine when you get back to the pit in order to start your second lap. You need to realize that your first lap may be one of your longer time-wise laps if you get stuck behind people and are waiting for obstacles. That could mean that you're finishing your second lap or your first lap with obstacles around the time that the sun has already gone down behind the mountains and the temperature drops like a rock. So I'm debating. Last year, that last lap I did, we left the pit around, last daytime lap. We left the pit around 3 o'clock. I put on my thermal compression top and my neoprene shirt. So that's what I'm going to put on now and act like that's what I'm running in my first obstacle lap. That gear change was manageable. It took less than 2 minutes for me to put on the thermal compression top, the neoprene shirt, and put my bib back on. I'm going to quickly grab whatever I would do for nutrition between laps and then head out for the last daytime lap. Because I know I won't get a second lap with obstacles completed before nighttime ops start. So I'm going to come back to the pit and I'm going to put on some neoprene. What neoprene will I wear? I'll wear what I wore for the majority of the nighttime ops, which was my 3 mil shorty wetsuit. It has long sleeves, short legs. But with this gear change, I also am going to lose these knickers, and I'm going to put on my thermal compression bottoms. And I will keep everything on top except for the neoprene shirt. So I'll make that change and show you. All right, so there were a couple items I failed to mention for the daytime lap with obstacles. There's these Gorilla gloves. They're very simple, very light, super cheap. I wore them for an obstacle lap before it got dark and cold. You can wear those. If there's wind, you can put on a buff. Or if you want to just protect your face from sun and whatnot. Anyways, I've got buffs, so I'm not going to show you. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then goggles. I got these. These were bouncing around on the community site. I did not like these, other than the fact that they protected from the sun a bit, but they fogged really, really bad. Those are daytime items. And then as you go into nighttime, you see I added the thermal compression pants, and I've got my shorty wetsuit. It's pretty short. The legs don't go any further than that, but it does go full sleeves on the top, and then I've got just my bib on top of that. I don't have any wind gear on. I don't have my full hood. I just have this simple Blue 70 cap with the chin strap. I made a mistake last year of putting my 5mm suit on immediately after coming back from that last daytime lap because I got cold. And then I was miserable. I also had my full hood on, and it was a big mistake. So I would recommend getting something on that's warm enough, but not going crazy. Because you're still going to be, your suit's going to be dry, and getting wet is unknown at this point. Last year we didn't get wet until after about mile 2 on the course. So you're running and you're hot, overheating going up the hill. So we'll see what the course is like, but I wouldn't dress up too hot too fast. And then on my head, I've got my lamp secured with this fancy twine. Just something that's already around in the house, and it's secured to my bib so that if I fall in an obstacle and the lamp falls off, I'm not going to lose it in the bottom because you will not find it. And then I'm not going to light this because it could blind the camera. But I've got my strobes. I wear 2. It's a unique color pattern. Pitt and friends out spectating can spot me better because I've got the pink and the green together. And then gloves. What gloves am I going to wear for my first lap at night? I don't know for sure. I've got these H2 Odysseys. I didn't love them. I may go back to the Gorilla Grips one more time, or I may go to my 3mm by Hyperflex. Now I'm going to stay in this until I get cold again. When I get cold again, I'm going to just make a simple switch and go to my hood from this cap to a full neoprene hood that'll get tucked into my suit. I'll demonstrate that next. Alright, so I do have a hood liner. This is a new hood that I'm going to be wearing this year. I hated my hood last year, and we'll talk about what you want to try to avoid. What your potential downfalls can do with your hood. So, I don't know that I'll wear this. I got it for really, really, really cheap 2 years ago. I know I'll be wearing this hood, and I know why it fits better than the other one. The other one put a lot of pressure on my jaw, and it was like a constant battle to keep my jaw forward. This one's a lot more comfortable, but I kind of feel the liner creating just that much more pressure. So I don't know if I'll end up going with a liner. Your hood goes inside your suit like that, and that's how my shorty zips. It zips all the way down through one leg. Very convenient to get on and off, as wetsuits go. tell, things get a little awkward. So that's with the hood. I'm not going to demo gloves. I'm just not going to waste my time putting them on and off. The other stuff I have here that I haven't shown you yet, when you come back to the pit for a gear change, this can be an absolute lifesaver. It looks like just a space blanket, but it has a hood. So you just drape it on, and you can get your nutrition. You can sit down in your chair and work on, you either drape it over like this, work on getting your sleeves on, getting your socks and shoes on, but this will radiate all that heat back at you that you're trying to lose. Or if you get to a point where you're cold enough that you need to rewarm, we'll put this on and go briefly into the communal tent where they'll have microwaves. It'll be warmer in there, but you're much better to get your heavy space blanket and go into the communal tent than you are to go and spend time in medical. If you go in medical, you have to prove to them that you can leave medical. And if you're in there too long, you disqualify. So it's much better to have your own space blanket, your own heat. And I mean, I'm just cooking right now inside the house, putting this on. So, you need to make sure you stay loose. You need to make sure that your muscles are sliding and you're not getting just a bunch of adhesions with your fascia. So you can get a roller. I find that a hand roller like this is so much more helpful than a rumble roller or one of those regular just rollers. You got to get down on the ground and move yourself around, and if you're cramping at all, you're not going to be able to get down to the ground and slither like a snake or do all that stuff. This is nice too because you can do it. Your pit crew can come and roller on you, but I would make sure that at least one person in your pit area, either you or another close by tent, has a roller. I want to make sure I show you this trick. So when you're putting on your wetsuit, legs or arms, put your extremity first in a plastic bag and then slide it through the sleeve or through the pants. And you'll be amazed how much easier it is to get your wetsuit on wearing a plastic bag on your sleeves. So, as you see, that came on pretty easy, and then the bags just slide right out. If you have any doubts, you can ask Joe Perry. It helped him so much that he was able to fit his legs in his sleeves of his wetsuit. It wasn't so easy to get it off. So that's the trick with the bags. Alright, so what do I have in the way of neoprene that I have not put on yet? I still have my hooded vest. This was a lifesaver last year. I'll put it on in a minute and show you how I wear it. I've got a bunch of other pairs of gloves. By measurement, am a large. So I have a large in the 3 millimeters. I have an extra large in the 3 millimeters. And then I have an extra large in the 5 mils. Your hands will swell just because of the compression on your arms, your hands getting hot and cold, more cold than hot. You'll end up getting swelling in your hands. The other neoprene that I have this Farmer John. I've never worn it, but it's a lot more flexible as a layer than to shed this and go to my 5 mil suit. I have worn my 5 mil suit at both previous World's Toughest Mudders. In Jersey, I was glad I had it. I wore it for most of the night, but I didn't have the I don't think I had the 5.3 hooded vest. And then last year, I put it on way too early. I was so miserable in it, and I wish that I had never put it on. I lose a lot of flexibility in it because it's got so much heavy neoprene throughout a lot of the flexion and extension points. It made me uncomfortable through my back. Now, granted, a lot of you have heavy suits. I have a heavy suit. I'm going to take this. You need to have other options in case you're cold. You may be warm one year, and then the next year you may be colder. Things change, temperatures, your own body composition. You can have an off day and just be cold. So I'm bringing both of those, the Farmer John, or Long John, I don't even know what it's called, and then the 5 mil. I'm going to pause and put on the hooded vest. So this is how I wore my 5'3" hooded vest. I put it on top of my shorty wetsuit. So it seals my neck. I'm not getting a lot of water flushing down my back. It's pretty tight around my face. And then it provides so much extra warmth through my core. Then once you put your gloves on, I think I put my gloves on and then I put the sleeves on over so that it created a seal also with the water running down into my hands and then back into my suit. And yeah, you're going to lose some out in the legs, but the majority of the water that's flushing down into your hands is already warmed by your body. And then you're not getting a lot of water entering from the back of the neck, which is important. I don't have on this light cap. All I have is this hood. If you have more than this on, you're gonna just suffer. I talked a little bit earlier about the nutrition belt. I use this for the whole race. I was able to take a bottle of Gatorade with me each time last time, and I just left it at the first obstacle, which was up at the top of the hill. There was a pile of trash. I think the official rules state that you can't leave anything on the course, but both of the years I've run, there's been like a sports bottle depository where people leave trash. If they're cracking down on that and not allowing it, I do have a Camelback because I've got to get 20 ounces in each lap, but I wore this in 2013 and I just don't measure well how much I'm drinking with this. I got dehydrated, I got behind. I do better with a bottle. I know exactly how much is in it. I can make myself drink that each lap. But I will have a Camelback just in case. And then once I've got this on, you'll have the lamp and my bib. If it gets windy, and only if it's windy, will I add my wind gear. And it's simple to you can just put it on over with your shoes on even. I'm not going to do it right now, but with a little assistance, you can get the pants on. And then I have a non-absorptive, there's no fabric in here, but it's a great shell that I can put on top of this and keep myself protected from the wind. Some people run with a buff. I only had one buff and I had two. I lent one to my wife and I lost my other one. I had it on the top of my head. I went into King of Swingers or something and it knocked off and I lost it. So, wind gear. Other important items that I have over here, I'll have 2 pairs of shoes. One will be that I'll be able to wear without my neoprene booties. And then I have the neoprene booties that I put on when I put on either my hooded vest or just my shorty. It depends on how my feet are feeling, whether or not I put them on. And that's when I'll make a switch. So I'll have 2 pairs of gaiters. I have a pair of gaiters already assembled on the shoes, so that when I switch to the larger pair of shoes, it's just quick tie and Velcro, and put these on before I put them on. And then I also have a neoprene mask I've never used. I got this. I should have used it last year. I really should have, but I don't know, I'm stupid. I have a backup headlamp. It's smaller. Haven't had to use it because my other one hasn't failed yet. I also have a little lantern for the tent. Make sure you bring extra batteries for all your lights. And then just over here I've got basic sunblock. Baby wipes are super helpful to clean up with. All of my first aid kit stuff. There's a whole long list. It fits into this bag like this. I bring 2-ply toilet paper. Trying to wipe with that 1/4-ply toilet paper when you have a wetsuit halfway on, halfway off is misery. This is very helpul. I have thin space blankets, so I could put this on inside my hooded vest if I needed to, or inside my jacket if I'm really cold. And I have duct tape, twine, trauma shears, zip ties, and this year, instead of knotting my bib on the sides, so I've just been sliding in and out of this, which is convenient enough. You can get these little plastic spring cord locks that you can feed your bib through, and then you can actually adjust it. I got this for super cheap from Amazon. That's really pretty much it. You know, the layers are going to depend on how hot or cold you are. After it starts to warm up, you're going to want to shed the layers. So get your wind stuff off if it's not windy anymore. Get your hooded vest off if it's not that cold anymore. Go back to just your hood, or go back to your swim cap. And then you're not going to be running in heavy neoprene at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. Your body will not thermoregulate as well as it normally does. So you're going to need more than you did starting the race. But once again, you have to have a change of clothes if you don't want to put on urine-soaked, cold, wet clothing. So that's why I have a full set of, second set of clothes. And then for after the race, this is the most important set you can have. I have my down coat. I had to borrow my wife's purple fur-lined coat last year. I was pretty, but I was warm and she was cold. She was very nice. I got, you know, a whole set of change of clothes, sweatpants, cold gear, top, underwear, because once I pack up and head out, it's almost going to be dark. And we're going to go to In-N-Out and get some food, and that'll be the race. Feel free to post questions, ask me why I did and didn't do stuff. I will be hopefully wearing this at some point, you know, a bronze bib, and maybe even a silver bib if I reach my goals by the end of the race. Good luck to you, and let me know if you have questions.